When the university shut down, it sent all the students home. During that time, somebody wrote May 4th, Kent 70 on the lintel.
My feeling is that the partially buried woodshed is the real May 4th monument, because his idea was to load earth on top of the shed until the beam cracked. And to me, it was, even though it was prescient, it was before the time, that was the real, true monument to May 4th, metaphorically and in a real way, too.
Putting that May 4th, Kent 70 on the lintel sort of gave the piece a political charge it didn't have before, and that forever after became associated with the shootings at Kent State.
And that became a sort of reasonably forgotten part of campus. The building that was going to be there was never built. The university had agreed not to bulldoze the piece until it built a building, but all building plans got cancelled. So it just sort of sat there. One point there was a fire, quite extensive fire at one end, the opposite end from where the earth was.
It was kerosene and a can of Coke, I think, or Pepsi, that was just thrown there, sort of like a Molotov cocktail. Half of it was burned. And the university then wanted to tear it down because they had this policy of getting rid of any dangerous debris.
Because the grounds crew actually wanted to clear the whole thing up. And we were saying, no, if you've got to make this safe, this beam stays. This beam's all right. That one can go, this one stays. Periodically, over the next few years, there would be sort of campaigns to have it removed. Most of the letters are actually not written when the building was first done, because not many people knew about it, really. But there would be these sort of rebellions. Let's get this piece out of there. And then there'd be all these counter letters. No, this is a great, important work of art.
By the time I arrived, there was a president of the university who was interested in forgetting some of the past. He wanted Kent State to be not the Kent State that people talk of in terms of the shootings and the problems.
It used to be the shed was part of a farm that was on a back lot of campus. Nobody ever saw it. Nobody ever went near there. And then all of a sudden, there was this new road. People had to drive by it and see it every day. It was near the library, near where all of the new buildings were going to be built. It was in the campus hotspot. Everybody got to see it. It looked like an old fallen down shed. They did preserve it. They did allow it to decay, but because it was seen from the road, they decided that they would try a little strategy of planting cedars in front of it, this barricade of cedars, so that you couldn't really see it from the road. You had to walk out to the mound to see it.
And the woodshed kind of disappeared then. And at that time they started expanding the science area, and they were building this big parking lot in front of all the science buildings. I got wind of it somehow, that they were planning to build it, and also discovered that they were building it over the woodshed. And I called the university. I said, you can't do this. There's a work of art there, and we own it, and we have to preserve it because it's important. And they were cooperative. They just forgot about it. And as a result, they did modify the existing or the proposed parking lot.
And then I think after 14 years, suddenly somebody realized it wasn't there. The cracked beam that was Bob's stopping point had finally totally collapsed. So the ground crew cleared the rotten bits of the building up, what they considered the dangerous stuff.
And then after that, it was about 1990, Dorothy Shin, who works at the Akron Beacon Journal, wanted to do some kind of an exhibit to honor and recognize the anniversary of the woodshed. And I think from that point on, the university became more aware of it.
I know that the woodshed collapsed, that there was a fire, that it was destroyed by a bulldozer, and there are trees and grass and stones remaining. It's very much a part of how entropy operates. Things change. I don't think Smithson would think of entropy as having a negative or a positive value. Entropy is something that exists as part of the life of the object.
Smithson wanted partially buried woodshed to be completely reclaimed by nature. So the site as it exists now is one that has accretions on it, natural and they're political. Like the words on the lintel was an accretion. That really started its association with very tragic political events. It was a lightning rod for a lot of stuff. For the 70s, really, if you think about it.
I don't know at what point you can actually sort of declare something of that nature that's supposed to go back to nature, to be over.
Now there's not much left, but there is something left, and there is the idea of it left, and it's an important work that should be maintained until there's absolutely nothing there. And even then, that I think it would be appropriate to keep it. If there's nothing there, then that's where it ended up.
Now, you might say that that's a kind of architecture, and a kind of entropic architecture, or a de-architecturization. In other words, it's not really manifesting itself the way, let's say, Skidmore, Owens, and Merrill might manifest itself. It's almost the reverse of that. Rome is like a big scrap heap, essentially, of antiquities, and of course America is less involved, doesn't have that kind of historical background of debris, you might say, sort of beautiful debris. It seems that architects build with a sense of an isolated, self-contained, ahistorical sense of their own planning. They never seem to allow for any kind of relationships outside of their grand plan, so as to exclude the whole entropic process. It's a rather static way of looking at things. I don't think things go in cycles. I think things just change from one situation to the next.